Do you know where all of your money goes? A few dollars here or there on subscriptions or fees really add up.
A study just came out recently where it's over $200 a month an average family spending on these monthly costs.
We talk about the things you can do today that will spring clean your finances and take a deeper look at some of those apps that promise to find where you can cut spending.
The first year that we used this, they negotiated a $20 per month savings on our internet.
That's today on Mom Squad. Hi everyone, welcome to Mom Squad. I'm Maureen Kyle, and this is a show where we talk all things parenting. Families are expensive. Aside from the everyday big ticket costs like the mortgage, insurance, and car payments, things like sports, clothing, and food really add up. It would be nice to find ways to save on everyday items, right? Well, while you're spring cleaning your house, we are going to tell you how to spring clean your finances. I sat down with Sequoia Financial Group Wealth Management Advisor Elizabeth Scheiderer to talk about the simple but necessary things that you should do to get your household budget back on track. So it's spring cleaning time, and I know that this is all selfish reasons. I was taking a look at some credit cards and my bank accounts, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need to know where my money is going. So today we're going to be talking about spring cleaning your finances. Elizabeth, where do you think we should start? If we're going, oh my gosh, I got to figure everything out. What do we start with?
Yeah, well, spring cleaning your finances is such a big topic, not to mention, oh, there's my tax return all done sitting right there and all these supporting documents. Let's make sure I stay clean. And so one of the things with spring cleaning is really looking at where your money's going, what are you doing with it? And a great place to start is looking at where am I spending money every month when it comes to those monthly subscriptions.
Yeah, and we all have them. I think that that's a big one. We've done stories on it before, but we've talked about how I think like pandemic era, we all signed up for things and things that were online, whether it's classes or, you know, cable streaming subscriptions, and cable's way out. So how do we start to look at what's the best way to figure out what we've signed up for and how much we're spending and if we're duplicating?
Yeah, so my suggestion here is to grab your most recent credit card statements. So maybe you have 2 cards, 3 cards you use most often. Grab those cards, look at them for the last 2 months. What charges do you see? Like, oh yeah, I am spending $2 on this or $19.99 on this. Really start to see where am I spending that on paper. Print them out, look at it, and then you'll get an idea of, oh yeah, those really are where I'm spending my monthly dollars.
Yeah. Now for me, like I said, this will be a little selfish here, but I'm sure I'm a lot like other couples too. My husband and I will have we don't have all the same credit cards. And we did come to the realization, he goes, are you paying for that? Because I signed up for that too. When a couple has like different cards, maybe they have a joint credit card or different credit cards, you got to sit down with all of it too, right? Like how do you start to figure out that when it's on separate accounts?
Well, exactly, and I have to say that recently just happened to me too. I thought I had this, subscription for the airport, and my husband had it on his credit card too, and it's like, why are we double paying for this?
Yeah.
And so really that came to be where we had our money date, where we sat down and said, all right, it's time to look at the last quarterly credit card statements, see what I'm like, wait, you're paying for this? Wait, I'm paying for this? And you don't know unless you spend the time to look. And that's what spring cleaning your finances is all about, is taking the purposeful time to really sit down and look at this.
So is it printing out those credit card statements and using an old school highlighter, or are there websites and apps that you think would be helpful?
Yeah, and this really comes down to your personality, right? And some people don't even have a printer, and how am I going to print this? And other people are like, I want to do everything electronic, and what did we Venmo each other this month? Yeah. Right? And so you got to figure out what fits for you, what's going to actually help bring all this to the front of the table here, and so you can really start to look at this spring cleaning. There are apps out there that are meant for couples. If you do a little Google research, best apps for couples, but this is one of those things where if you're going to pay $5 a month, make sure you're not adding to what we're spending every month and not using. So if you are going to commit to paying for a budgeting app, make sure you at least try it for 3 months, and then if you're not using it, cancel it.
Yeah. Should that be for every subscription?
Probably. That's a good rule of thumb here.
How much do those little like $5 here subscriptions, $20, when we're signing up, we're like, oh, $20 a month, that's nothing. But how much does it really add up when you're meeting with clients?
Yeah, well, and so like a lot of people say, maybe $100 a month between what I'm spending for, streaming shows and then my makeup kit, those sort of things. But really a study just came out recently where it's over $200 a month an average family spending on these monthly costs.
Wow, that really, that does add up. And I bet it's more depending on how much you automate things.
Oh,
too.
Exactly. And how many kids you have in the household and who's on what. Exactly.
Yes. All right. So also interest rate environment. I want to talk about the interest rate because that has been a big thing. Like as we're talking about credit cards and people want to buy houses and people, how do you even start to battle that?
Well, it's a different spring cleaning environment right now in 2024 because of where we have these higher rates, and they're going to be higher for longer is what the Federal Reserve is telling us. And so when I'm talking about spring cleaning in this interest rate environment, two things come to mind. One is, are you earning on your savings accounts? We're getting 3 to 5% on money market savings accounts. If you have too much money earning nothing, it's time to sit back and do some cleaning. Find some saving account options for you for that extra emergency fund. The second area is credit cards. I mean, interest rates have gone up, and so if you're paying a high rate, now's a good time to really sit back and say, could I clean this up a little bit? Is there a 0% card I could use, or is it worth calling the credit card company and saying, hey, can you lower my rate right now?
Do they do that? Like if you call, I don't know, I've never even tried calling the credit card company. I feel like they would say, no, this is it. But do you find that some credit card companies will work with their customers?
They will. It's just like the idea of you're calling your cable company and saying, I'm thinking about changing. You do have some options there. And so especially, call and make that idea and then be willing to move if it's not going to work out and you need to find a lower rate. When
you talk about credit card, anything, I mean, what comes to mind is if we have a balance, something that's, it feels like a mountain to climb. We know that we have to get spending down. I mean, that's how you're going to pay off your credit cards. But it seems like with inflation and everything that's costing more, it's really hard to cut the expenses. So we've already talked about the subscriptions, but what are some other ways that you think people can really take a look at what they're spending this spring and make cuts to those budgets? Yeah, and a lot, I think what we need to talk about too is the feelings associated with spending. Yes. Because this is where you just said it's that clear. You need to find ways to spend less to pay off your credit cards, but it's hard, especially when it's coming into summer and maybe I want to get back into the gym again. Why would I cancel that subscription, right? Yeah. But you need to sit back and think about what's a need, what's a want, and would I feel better come the holidays having this credit card paid off and not being in this situation, or taking a nice fall vacation with the kids without the burden of credit card debt. And so really sitting back and looking at that. And the first place I really see a lot of savings happen is being really purposeful with the grocery shopping. Because it's easy to run into one big shop and get everything you need from cat food to meat, but maybe there's specific stores that are best for both. Yeah. And so being purposeful with that sort of spending is really where I've seen the best when it comes to a family's budget, is with food costs, is how do I best stop eating out, be purposeful with my at-home meal making, and really stop packing lunches and all that good stuff. Yeah. I know we've talked about it before. I'm going to lob this at you. Yeah. Bulk, like I know it's always a conversation among my friends. Like, what is it that we're buying from those wholesale bulk stores versus the Aldis, the local mom and pops that are probably a little bit more discount? How do you start to figure that out? Like, are there websites? Is it just going in and crunching the numbers? Well, it's sitting back and thinking, as a household, what do we need? What are our staples? Those toilet papers, the paper towels, the laundry detergent, and sitting back and pricing those out. I'd pick your top 10. This is what we always need in the house, and saying, is this going to be better at the wholesale shop or better buying 3 packs at a time at one of these stores? Most often, those things that you need consistently that you can buy in bulk is going to be better at the wholesale shop. And then going to your local stores for those special things that you might need, whether it's the fruit on sale that month or that week at that local grocer, or maybe it's a special meal coming up and you want a good cut of meat from a special place. But getting purposeful about where you buy certain things and getting in that habit just automates that savings. Yeah. How much produce? We've talked about it before, where you just end up throwing it away. Like you just... So stop doing that. That's one of those things where, hey, if you can, on the way home from dropping the
kids off at school, if there's a shop that has, this is the fruit we have this week, kids, it's what's on sale. Next week, we're going to have what's on sale next time. But you're right, that food waste is one of those big things that if we can get in front of it, the better.
Right. So credit card statements.
Yeah.
I have kept credit card statements. Like I can go in my box of files and see, like, I've kept, what I've signed up for, and I've kept tax returns for several years. In terms of documents and what we need to keep financially, what can we purge, especially when it comes to those, like what we've kept on paper files in our house?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I mean, spring cleaning, right? And it's what's in that drawer of, oh my goodness, I've had this for a few years and I just keep stuffing stuff in it. This is finding that time this spring to really pull out those drawers and look at them and getting organized and winning that victory. And so when it comes to those bigger important documents like tax returns, those sort of things, the rule of thumb is 7 years. The IRS can go back 3 years and then another 3 if they really wanted to. And so that's why we tend to say 7 years of those important documents you want to keep. And then I'm a big fan of keeping your year-end statements in good order, just making certain you know where all that is. And then historical documents, like remember that mortgage you signed and all that sort of good stuff? Now's a good time too, if you're feeling motivated really with the spring cleaning idea, to go digital. Scan it in, get an online filing system that's definitely secure. There's some options there, but that's definitely where we're heading. And one day our kids are not going to want to open a drawer to look at what we've put in there. They're going to go online and check it out for us.
There's no sentimental value in my credit card statement from December of 7 years ago. Like, they're not going to look and be like, oh, mom overspent on all of this. Let's talk about also, because this has come up a couple of times, where I've needed my credit report. And it's funny, I always heard like, oh, you don't want to check your credit score too much because then it'll hurt your credit score. Is that a myth? Is that real? I don't know.
Well, there's some differences there. With a full credit card credit review check is going to be a pull on your credit report. So that's something if you're going to the car dealership and you're interested in a loan and they do a hard pull, that's something that'll look at your credit report.
Yeah.
But you as a human can go online and look at your credit report for free every year at annualcreditreport.com. And I love doing it this time of year, especially because we just did our taxes too. Like, you're just organized. This is where you're looking for things like, is there a new credit card out there I didn't sign up for? Is there identity theft issues? I still have credit with Kohl's from how many years ago? I need to revisit that. So it's a good way to clean up that credit report too this time of year.
That's a good idea, yeah, because I'll get credit cards that I'm like, I don't need this store credit card anymore. I don't really shop there anymore, or just, it's not my main credit card. And I'll just not activate it. I don't know. I've just like left it where I'm like, well, maybe they'll think that something happened to me, and I just don't activate it. I don't know if that's wrong or if that's right, or like what
you fold it up, you put it in the drawer.
Should I be canceling it, or should I just kind of like never activate it? I don't know.
Well, and so if you cancel the credit card, that is taking control over what's happening. It's not just putting it in MasterCard or Visa's hand, whether or not you go ahead and say, yes, I'm going to activate this card. But you do have to be careful when you close credit cards, because your credit score is based on your credit history. So maybe that was the first credit card you ever got at that first retail store. And so it's one of those things where it might be worth going into that retail establishment once a year, using that card, just keeping that credit if you have a tight credit score.
So it's good to keep them open and use these cards, but just buy something, just pay it off, whatever. I know it always depends on also if there's fees or annual fees or.
Exactly. So if you're paying an annual fee and you're not using that card that often, it's not worth it. And then maybe that's the card you cancel, right? It's worth saving $50 in an annual fee for a 2-point hit on your credit score for a few periods, a few months or so. And it may not even take that long. But if you look at your credit report and you have long credit history and it's a good score and it's a nuisance card in your purse, go ahead and cancel it. But if you're saying, my credit score needs a little bit of work, and keeping that credit history longer and focusing on paying my cards down, you might want to consider that. The best rule of thumb is to use 1/3 of your available credit. So if you have $3,000 available on your credit card, only use $1,000 of it, and that really helps your credit score.
You mentioned before having a money date with your spouse, your partner. We have like touched on that a lot of times on this show, where it's like, oh, have a money date. I have to admit, I don't think I've ever scheduled the money date because it's like, oh, if we're going to go out to dinner or go out with friends versus sit and have the money date. But we need to do this. Like, this is a goal we should have this spring.
It is a really good goal to have this spring. And I think about it too, because, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, then you got to prepare, and then you do, and then you got to actually work when you're done with this.
I don't want to do math on a date. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
And have homework after the date too, because likely things are going to need to be done and changed. And so, you know, but if it comes to this, it's just one of these mindsets of, you know, you're not doing your hair, you're not getting fancy for this. It's one of those things where maybe save that getting ready time to get your statements together and get organized and really think about, well, do we want to fully fund our kids' school for college, or do we want to focus on vacation? Like, where are our goals? And then you come to the date kind of open-minded, ready, and and yes, before you let the babysitter go, you go online and you make some bills being paid automatically and those sort of things you said you'd do.
So I guess my point too, this leads me into my next thing. People will have certain goals. I know this time of year, you know, people have hopefully gotten a tax refund. Yeah. And you have that money in the bank. And so I'm sure everybody's thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this? Saving money is a great feeling. So to come up with those goals, whether it is like, okay, honey, we are going to pay off this credit card, or it's, gosh, let's go on a European vacation. Going into those dates and having those goals, to me, seems like it's more motivation. Is that something we should be thinking about, or should it be like we should be thinking retirement savings?
Yeah.
What do you think with goals?
Yeah, goals. So my big thing with goals, especially when it comes to spring cleaning, is let's pick one that you can actually accomplish. You know, maybe our New Year's resolutions, where did those land? Here we are. Like, let's get back to basics and pick one that we can actually accomplish. And maybe it is that European cruise. Maybe it is increasing the retirement savings in the 401k plans that we have at work. But coming together, and like you said, it's not the most fun date, but it gets you and your partner focusing on the future, not exactly the day-to-day, and thinking about those bigger kind of fun things is really helpful for that relationship. Yeah.
I want to ask you, since you are in wealth management, what do you think are the frivolous things that people spend on that add up? We talked about the subscriptions, but what are some of the frivolous things that you see people spend and they don't realize, like, wow, this is really affecting my overall wealth?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, and it's all specific to each person and each family. I'm a big fan of saying there's no wrong answers. If I'm a big fan of handbags, that's going to be what I want to spend my money on, but maybe I'm not driving the flashiest car around, right? And so there's going to be different kind of spectrums of where do I want to spend my money, where do I need to spend my money, and you know, I see it a lot when it comes to maybe, you know, the wine club of the month, or maybe even, you know, some hobbies when it comes to, you know, carrying costs, like boating. Yeah, it's fun to go get a boat, but then you're spending time at the yacht club and on gas, and you're hosting. It's those carrying costs that can come up with certain things. And then, believe it or not, it's often on kids and travel sports. I see that a lot. You put down pen to paper, and it's, you know, that's all of a sudden it's a need in your household. You need to give up some wants because you can't sometimes do both when it comes to those sports, and it's expensive for those kiddos.
Oh my gosh, yes. I think every parent realizes that, whether it's the camps or the clubs or even rec, it'll add up. Who hasn't signed up for several different subscription services, whether it was an online workout during the pandemic, or maybe it was a streaming service to watch one particular show? We've all done it. And luckily, there are apps that can help you find those subscriptions that you may have lost track of. Here's a look at the most popular ones and what online reviewers had to say about it.
The average household spends $273 per month on subscription services.
All those little fees you thought wouldn't make a dent in the budget certainly add up. And there are many apps that promise to cut those down. But do they make the cut? We took a look at the top 3 most popular apps that promise to cut subscriptions and what reviewers are saying online. Let's start with Truebill, which is mainly a free budgeting app. You do have to plug in all of your account information.
From there, Truebill is going to identify your subscription services, outline what those subscriptions are truly costing you each month, and then help you identify the ones that you shouldn't be paying for.
It creates a list of your transactions from your statements and gives you a breakdown of where all your money is going and which bills you can save money on. Magnified Money on YouTube says there's also a paid option for $12 a month that allows Truebill to negotiate bills for you.
Many Truebill users have saved hundreds, if not thousands of dollars from this feature alone. I personally have no problem investing a little bit in my financial future, and I think that a few bucks per month for something like Truebill certainly falls into that category in my eyes. But as always, that is just my opinion.
Then there's the app Trim. This one is another budgeting tool app that takes a look at your expenses and finds places that you can trim. Like most of these apps, there's a free version and a premium option. The free version includes the feature that identifies regular outgoing subscriptions you may have forgotten about or duplicated.
First of all, if they aren't able to save you any money on your bills, you don't pay anything. That's what I really like about Trim. If they are able to save you money, then they take 1/3 of the bill savings.
App reviewer Caleb Bale says he's been impressed with the service and has used it personally.
The first year that we used this, they negotiated a $20 per month savings on our internet. So we paid Trim a fee of $80 and saved twice that after their fee. Last year we saved $10 per month on their negotiation of our internet bill. Plus they've gotten us a couple $40 and $50 one-time credits on our phone bill.
The premium service for Trim costs $99 per year, so you'll also need to factor that into the cost. Another popular app people use to find those unwanted subscriptions is called Track My Subs. This one is designed specifically for tracking subscriptions, keeping them in one place so you can control them and get notified before they hit your bank account. Online reviewer Pearl Lemon Group tested it out.
MySubs.com is going to basically monitor your subscriptions for you, so it's just one less thing to worry about, and it's a huge thing that you don't have to worry about. So everything's easy to read with colourful charts.
You can track up to 10 subscriptions for free, or if you need to track more, there are premium plans from $5 up to $15 per month. Keep in mind, the potential to save money with all of these apps can add up to be hundreds of dollars, but in many cases, this is another subscription you'll sign up for.
There are, of course, many more budgeting apps that can help you get a good snapshot of your finances and how you can save. These are just a few of the ones most reviewed for specifically tracking those subscriptions. I want to thank Wealth Management Advisor Elizabeth Scheiderer for taking the time to talk with us today. And a big thanks to all of you for tuning into Mom Squad. Make sure you join us on the Mom Squad with Maureen Kyle Facebook page. You can share your thoughts and connect with other moms. We're going to see you right back here next time.